Hi, everybody. Happy Independence Day and welcome to DotLife, Dorchester's podcast source of hyperlocal news content and analysis. I am actually not in Dorchester right now. I am in Milwaukee, but I am joined by Seth Daniel, who is in Dorchester and actually in the Dorchester Reporter newsroom. Hey, Seth, how are
Well,
you?
turn it down. I'm doing well. How are you,
Yeah,
Ann?
holding down the fort there. Bill's on vacation.
Yes. Yeah, it's a light week. Things are winding down after a very busy, probably 5 months.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
great. Yeah.
That's awesome. It's pretty nice here in Milwaukee. I've never been here before, so it's nice and warm, but not humid, so I could get used to that weather.
Nice. A lot of beer there, right? And we're
Yeah,
running Shirley.
yep, nice breweries. Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of good stuff there.
What's happening over on your end? You got any relics for us today?
I do. I have something that I found in my house like the last time, and this was unearthed not long ago from a crate that my mother gave me, who said, "I'm throwing this stuff out. Go through it, or uh, or I'm getting rid of it." And
Kind of hate when they do that, man. My garage has three of those
yeah, they get
boxes.
to a point in there, like you're not, you can't just leave your stuff here anymore.
I don't understand. Why not?
Exactly. They move on, and we're not ready yet. But hey, I got my own house, so it went up on the third floor long ago, and the box was opened. And what I found was my honorary Jedi Knight
Oh.
certificate from 1983. This
Oh,
certifies me. It's actually signed by Yoda. I don't know if too many people have Yoda's signature in hand. I do.
it's got to be worth
But
something.
as you see,
Torn?
I wrote my name, Seth, so that made it official. And it does say that may the force be with you. I think it's made a difference throughout the years, but
You
wasn't
think
something I couldn't get rid of this, you know.
you
So
think
this was
it's been supporting your journalistic endeavors because you've got the force behind you?
likely without me knowing, but yeah, it's been there the whole time. And one little interesting tidbit is that this comes from the box of underwear that is fun to
Oh
wear.
my gosh.
Don't know what that is. That was under ruse.
Shrinkage controlled. Love that.
Yes. Yeah, under ruse. This was must have been some Star Wars stuff, and I found it in there and I cut it out, and this was on my wall for quite a while through
I
my
hope you're going to
elementary
add
school.
that to your wall in the newsroom.
I need to laminate it. I don't even know where to laminate something anymore, but yeah, it's gonna be in a prominent place. It's not gonna get thrown out.
No, absolutely not. Well, thank you for sharing
And
your credentials with us. We appreciate that.
yeah, well, it's better than a college diploma, I think, right?
Yeah.
It's cheaper too.
And it comes with underoos that are fun to wear. So,
Yes.
yeah.
I don't have those anymore.
I would imagine those don't fit anymore.
Yeah.
Well, we've got actually, it is a slower week, but we've got quite a few things to talk about. There's some great stories in the reporter this week, one of which is about a really interesting project coming out of UMass Boston, which is one of the researchers there is creating a living seawall type of
Yeah.
materials that help mitigate climate change related flooding and sea encroachment.
Right.
Did you get to see these?
No, I haven't seen them in person.
Okay.
Our reporter Cassidy McNeely, who did this story, did, and she
Okay.
took a tour of a number of them. And this comes from UMass Boston. Started, it kind of got lost a little bit through the pandemic and coming out of it, but they started a new lab called the Stone Living Lab, and it's
Okay.
basically all about resilience and climate change in regards to the sea and how do we control the sea or not control the sea or live with the
Yeah.
sea as it goes up and down in our lifetime. And one of the things they developed was, and this was part of like I don't know if you remember like the thing that Prince was it Prince oh, I forget his name now. The English prince.
Prince
Uh,
William.
William. Oh my gosh, I completely forgot that. And anyway, he this was a project that they funded through their foundation,
Okay.
which actually visited UMass Boston.
I have a story
And,
about that actually. When
oh
when
boy.
they came to visit, I was going from my house in Ashmont to Southie to get my hair done, and it was like
No, you
way
weren't.
overdue.
No,
And I
you
got
didn't.
stuck on Morrissey, and I was like an hour late for my appointment.
Yeah.
I was so mad at the prince.
Yes. I have a similar story. I had to pick up my daughter from middle school, and she was at the Shawmut Tea Station,
Okay.
and she remained at the Shawmut Tea Station for a very long time because I was right there with you.
I feel like mine
And
is more important. It was my hair.
hair is way more important than any kid waiting at the tea. But yeah, that his foundation tacked onto this. It was promoted, and basically what it does is that we build seawalls and infrastructure around the point where the ocean and the land come together. And a lot of times they're just concrete barriers. A lot of times they're wood pilings
Yep.
stacked up, and there's no real surface to them. But in a real sort of meeting spot, if you've ever been to the ocean where it's a natural, there's all kinds of different crevices and
Tide
surfaces.
pools. Yep.
Yeah, tide pools, places where things live, and they're very important to the biodiversity of the ocean. And she has created sort of it's fabricated, but it's a natural type of wall where things can live and hide. Oysters, seaweed, the things that would attach to a
Barnacles.
real, yeah, barnacles, of course.
Hmm.
And it's really proven to be a success. And they've established a colony of them in East Boston along the Chelsea Creek. And if you've been to the Chelsea Creek, you might not think anything can grow there, but it did, and it actually was very successful, very green. And the other place was right in the seaport, and that has developed its own little biodiversity. And it's just things are hiding in there. Oysters do attach to the concrete, but they're sitting ducks for ducks and
Yeah.
any other predator that would come along because they can't hide. So they're able to get into these crevices, which in normal life, in a normal situation, they would be able to do. And so this is one project of the Stone Living Lab that has really proven at the outset to be something that could be transported from Boston to the rest of the world. I mean,
And
every city in America has these.
the benefit of having it be a living wall instead of one of those concrete walls is it actually does absorb more of the seawater, correct? It's not just
Yes,
nicer and more biodiverse, it's
right,
also more
right,
mitigating to the flooding.
absolutely. And even these creatures, they clean the water. I mean,
Mm.
that's another thing that's been missing.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned barnacles. We know oysters, clams. So they clean the water. They take the water in, they put it out. When they put it out, it cleans it. It's a lot like trees.
Yeah.
So there's numerous different positives to this project. So it's
Nice.
just one. There might be many more. They're talking about Dorchester is pretty much where this is based, and the campus is taking it very seriously, being on the water, and it's a priority. And there could be many different things that they test on us that not on us, but on our environment um, that actually end up really working well and can be exported to the rest of the world. Perhaps we get it first.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love seeing that kind of innovation, especially coming out of, UMass Boston right down the street. That's really interesting. But, are they planning on using this sort of technology for Morrissey to help mitigate the flooding that happens there? Or is that, or
Yeah, well,
not to that point yet?
yeah, well, this might not be. This could definitely work in whatever future resiliency project that they build on Morrissey, which that's part of a bigger project, which includes the roadway and everything else. But right there on that stretch where the beaches are,
Hmm.
um, Malibu Beach and Savin Hill Beach, there needs to be something, and this could
Yeah.
probably be part of it. They have some other ideas. That could really help as well. It's probably going to be wise as that project winds into design, which it's very controversial what it is that they're going to, they want, build. They once wanted to put an 11-foot wall, which no one was in favor of
Yeah.
except them. Um, so there's a lot of different ideas that could come out of the Stone Living Lab to help us, find something we can live with and something that can protect us at the same time. So yes,
Yeah.
Dorchester, Morrissey Boulevard could really benefit from the lab
Well,
right out
speaking of
action.
Morrissey, yeah. So there's an article that you wrote this week in the paper about the final draft report for the Morrissey rehab, which Tell us a little bit about that. That's got a massive project coming up at some point, and it looks like we've moved to the next stage of that planning process.
Yeah, so this was a planning effort that was legislatively mandated. So State Senator Nick Collins, State Reps Dan Hunt and David Beal, who is South Boston, they put in years ago an effort that was mandated that there be this planning process for Morrissey Boulevard. They did remove Kosciuszko Circle, which K Circle, what we call it,
Hmm.
from it. It's on its own track. That's controversial too, but it is water under the bridge, I guess, at this
Yeah.
point. And last Thursday, they had a meeting, their final meeting. There's been many meetings in this process, and this was the last one. They voted on the final report. Now, the report has a lot of preferred alternatives, a lot of new intersections, new interchanges, new ways of getting around Morrissey Boulevard, resiliency projects, bike lanes, not bike lanes, a
Actually
lot of
being able to
ideas.
get onto Morrissey from somewhere other than and like get it looks like, I hope, you'll be able to get onto Morrissey and turn left at some point instead of having to get on and go all the way around. Is that right?
Yes, there is the hope of that. Yeah, there is the hope
Wow.
of that. They promise
Imagine what a world.
there's still the design phase will be the time when that's for real. But
Okay.
this is the thing that's informing the design to start with. One of the bigger things for the neighborhood was being able to get back to the water. I mean, it's really
Yeah.
a highway wall there where you have two highway walls, an interstate and then Morrissey. So people really want to be able to find these connections where they can walk across, and those are provided. There's some great new ideas about how we can, easily without, risking our lives, get to the waterfront
Is that
from south.
crosswalks or is that something more like pedestrian bridges?
New intersections, not really pedestrian bridges,
Okay.
but new intersections where there are protected crossings. It's also biking is much easier. There's
Hmm.
some controversy as to where we put it. Right now, the lanes are on the road, but there's plenty of opportunity to actually put them right on the coastline because
Yeah.
we have the Greenway right next to it. Some people have argued within this process that the Greenway should continue to be the Greenway and the bike lanes should be off the road, so it's safer and there can be more lanes of traffic. There's some sense to that, and it's still beautiful. And if I were on a bike, I would like it either way.
Yeah. So I know that a lot of this is going to be complicated by the development that's happening on Morrissey. So much more housing is going up already, and there's more planned. Are they taking into account not just fixing what's a problem now, but future influxes of traffic and people?
Yeah, that's been an ongoing point. There's a series of words they use called comprehensive planning, and this is what the neighborhood wants. They
Okay.
want a comprehensive planning process, and they've been asking that since the beginning of this. Um, it's kind of been revealed that Mass DOT, that's a highway. They build highways, they build roads. They're not really into comprehensive
Yeah.
community planning that looks at everything from the sewers to the crosswalks to the roads to the housing units and everything in between.
The
Um,
placemaking idea, right?
Right, even just organizing all of what's
Mhm.
happening because there's this area, Columbia Point, Savin Hill, the Morrissey corridor. It is just growing so fast, and what's in the pipeline. It's often said by several community members. One man named Don Walsh is famous for it. 10,000 housing units and 30,000, I believe it is, square feet of commercial space, or 300,000 square feet of commercial space.
Wow.
Um, yeah, so it's a lot. There's a lot of stuff happening. It's in the pipeline, some of it's being built. Um, there's a meeting actually coming up next week for some skyscrapers that are going to be right next to the Star Market in what is a
Wow.
housing development. Yeah, and it's
Wait,
stuff like
wait, is
that
that
that's
at
going to happen.
55 Morrissey?
Yes, yeah. So it's the old rate. Yeah, right.
Yeah. I'm not there
You know
today, but
that
I
place?
usually am.
We might be sitting there someday soon. Yeah, so
Wow.
that's
Okay.
That's part of it. Yeah, there are some big plans for the corridor, and even over into South Boston, um, they just cut the ribbon on Old Colony
Mhm.
housing development over there. Another phase of that. There's just a lot of stuff happening. It can be overwhelming, and how do you organize it? And that's what the community has been asking. Can you please organize this in
Yeah,
addition to the road? Um, the state wasn't really able to do that. They produced a nice road report that's going
yeah,
to feed the design, and they put their toes in the water on trying to plan. But it was really kind of a curveball on Thursday when the city, the head of planning, Kairos Shen, he's somewhat new, and he stepped into the process last fall. He's on the commission. His predecessor was on the commission, and he threw a curveball last Thursday and saying, "Hey, the city understands that you are a roadway planner,
hmm,
not a comprehensive community planner, and we're going to lead and fund, which is the big word, fund, the
wow,
effort of an extended process to plan alongside your roadway plan." And that's really big because someone needed to step up. The community has asked. In fact, that report that was approved 7-1 on Thursday was in flux. People weren't sure if it was actually going to get approved because
yeah,
there was such a call from the community to extend this again. It's already been extended once,
right,
and people said you can't end it. You got to keep going. So the city's stepping up to offer their services and committing manpower, or should I say people power, along with funding, was really big because it's that organizing element that takes everything into consideration along with the roadway that the state is handling. Uh,
and we're not at the point where changes can't be made, right? It's just
that's
moving from this current phase into the project phase, the planning to the project, right?
Yeah. So,
Okay,
so it's government, so we like to make it complicated.
right,
It's never easy. So this is one of three projects on that corridor. And now this had been a legislative mandated planning process, right?
mhm,
So that is over. They've moved away from planning now, and they're into the project development phase. So it's going to
okay,
be designed, an official design, with consultants and planner, project managers and things like that. Now that adds the K Circle has its own project, so that's the second one. And then there's the Beads Drawbridge. That's the drawbridge that goes up and lets boats go. And inevitably, probably when you're on your way to get your hair done, it goes up.
yep.
And traffic goes way back, and everybody sits there honking, and they're like, "Why are you stopped?" And then the bridge goes up, so they're going to rebuild that
I
bridge.
don't like reading that bridge being described as crumbling when I'm driving over it. That's not a great adjective for a bridge that you're currently
No,
on.
if you take a walk over it, you really see the crumbling.
Ugh,
The concrete is like you could almost take like a toy hammer and break the thing. I feel like it
yes.
wouldn't take much.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
so yeah, that's another piece that's got to get done.
Yeah,
So those three are now all going to be in the same level of project development. And MassDOT's in charge of all of them. They said that they're going to coordinate all three. We haven't even gotten to the money. As you know, this is more than a trip to the grocery store. This is
yeah.
expensive. This is hundreds of millions of dollars.
And this is contingent on federal support.
Well, yes and no. They're not really sure about that yet.
Okay.
Most projects of this size are going to take federal support.
Yeah.
We have the one similar, which is Rutherford Avenue in Charlestown that comes in from Everett and Medford and Somerville.
Yep.
That is a similar type of roadway to Morrissey, and it did require quite a bit of federal funding. It hasn't even gotten started. I don't even know where that is anymore, but
They did
uh,
replace that bridge. Is that part of that project or was that separate?
that was a separate project.
Okay.
That was, but it is nice. It's a beautiful
It is
little bridge.
nice. Yeah. Yeah.
So, getting this done without federal funding is going to be tricky, but the state could do that. They would require quite a bit of resources directed our way and away from other places.
Yeah.
And the state's not doing well now, but who knows what the future holds, to be honest with you. This is
Yeah.
several
This is
years.
not going to happen next week, so we've got some time to figure it out.
Yeah, but it's very important, within the next 10 years to get it sorted out because the growth is going to be tremendous of people, of structures, and also the environment.
Yeah.
That has to get figured out. How do we live with, rising sea levels and whatever else might come of it, as the ocean comes in and out every day twice, and we figure out how we live with that.
And that
As
bridge is not going to stop crumbling just because we don't fund the project. So we
it's
need
so
to do it.
true. It's so true. We can't let it fall down.
Yeah. Yeah. What else is going on? We've got kind of an interesting story that you also wrote about a quilting circle. I,
Yeah, so
I was surprised to see this one in there.
there's a really active, it's a senior quilting group. They're based
Okay.
out of Codman Square Library. Um, and they've been there for a long time. But before that, they were the Kit Clark Senior Center, which used to be in Fields Corner, was the host. That's kind of where it started. It was just that was a program for seniors.
Okay.
Uh, and so many of them come up from the South, or they have learned from other family members here how to quilt. And it's sort of a generational thing. You pass it down from one generation to the next. That's how quilting has gone. There's different kinds of quilting. So there's the practical kind where you make something that's going to keep you warm in our long, long winters.
Hmm.
And that's what this quilting circle does. They're called quilting circles. I'm sorry, I
Okay.
didn't find that. So that's what this quilting circle does. They make a lot of functional quilts. They're very beautiful, though. You could say they're art, but there is actually art quilting. And one of their speakers was an art quilter who is part of a program at Northeastern University. She has a studio in JP, and it's mostly African American artistry
Okay.
and she makes some very interesting things that have been displayed worldwide. They're not to get under and stay warm on a cold night. They're pieces of art on the wall.
Okay.
But our quilters at Codman Square, they have quilts that they've made over the past many years that are just phenomenal. You've seen women get involved. It's mostly women. I actually don't think there are any men, but men are welcome
Yeah.
if they choose to. But I've seen women get involved because I've covered this for several years. They have a showcase every June. And you see them start with something very simple. And now, a few years removed, they are making elaborate pieces. And the beauty of this is it's a resilient thing. This was, of course, many things were born that are resilient were born out of necessity, right? So
Right.
you take scraps of the clothes that no longer work and you make something out of it, often a blanket, which is a quilt. But they source materials from all over the place. People give them fabric, they find fabric, and then they make something beautiful out of it. And they teach each other.
Yeah.
And the interesting part here, you could go to that every year and just see the quilts. But when I was there recently, when they had their showcase, there was a young woman with a newborn baby and a Dorchester resident. And I thought she was somebody's granddaughter because there are a lot of family members. It's standing room only.
Okay.
Family comes out to see you know, um, what's been made and what's been produced. And that's what I thought she was there for someone older. It turns out she had walked into the library. She was had been pregnant, with the child, and she was at home. She was bored, a little lonely, looking for friends, trying to figure out a baby shower. And she went into the library to find out if maybe she could rent the community room. The library doesn't do that, but as
Okay.
she was looking in there, the quilters were working, and she's like, "What is all this energy?" And they said, "Come on in," and they had food and they had all sorts of stuff, and she sat down and she's like, "What are these people doing? Where am I at?" And they welcomed her right in, and she came back and they taught her how to quilt. She made a quilt for her baby, and she joined this quilting circle, and she told me I actually didn't know until recently that this is for seniors. She's not a senior by any stretch of the
No.
imagination. Her name is Lily Dillon, and is a younger woman from Dorchester, and she's really found a community there. And I think we're all searching for community, and it's funny that you walk into the library to rent it, and you find a place where community exists, and she
Yeah.
became welcome. And I think that was a surprise for her, but not for the women there. This is kind of just what they've done for anybody and everybody. They laugh when we think it's unique because it's not unique for them. All you need to do is walk through the door, and they're going to pass you down what they've learned from others and keep it going. That's sort of the energy of quilting, I suppose. And
My mom is a prolific quilter. She's done it for years and
all right, did she pass it on to you?
she tried. Bless
Yeah.
her heart. She tried. You know what's funny? Do you know who that baby is?
uh, I don't. I know the name.
So, regular listeners will know that is Paul Willis's nephew. he shouted him out during his performance on the pod a couple of weeks ago. Silas Evergreen Dillon. It's got to be the same baby, right?
Yes, yeah, Evergreen. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was Evergreen. That is his name. So, wow, it is a small world, you
it
know.
is
I
a small
think
world.
that when we settle, a lot of people, younger people, in Dorchester, and people we settle in Dorchester, it seems like such a big place, and you're anonymous and
Yeah,
you know guarded, city type thing, and it just isn't.
no, it it
Boston is the
really
biggest
isn't.
small town in the world. They often say that that
Yeah.
you can't go anywhere without someone knowing your business. And that's just like a small town, believe me.
Well, we've got a couple other stories to get to here. One is we got some new liquor licenses granted, actually quite a few for Dorchester businesses. I'll just run through the list really quickly. Cool Shade Jamaican Restaurant on Blue Hill Avenue,
Mhm.
Blasie's Kitchen in Adams Street,
Yeah, cool.
Milkweed, the new Milkweed on Morrissey Boulevard,
Mhm.
Molinari's in Adams Village. I don't know how to say this one. Do you know Duane and Pepe?
Dune
Dune and
and
Pepe
yeah,
on
Dune.
Washington Street in Codman. Chilicate's Cantina, which is based in JP, but they've got a big chain now. They've got several locations in Boston. They've got one on in the dot block, and
Yes.
Pizza 24 at in Fields Corner. So that's super exciting. Lots of new liquor licenses.
Yeah, lots of new liquor license, lots of new ideas of how to use them. These are existing businesses. One of them isn't ex like you mentioned, Chilicates. That's an existing business that is moving into the neighborhood, but by
Mhm.
no stretch of the imagination, some sort of outsider coming in to steal the liquor license,
Right,
which
right.
everyone was fearing would happen. None of that has happened so far. This is the second round. I will put an asterisk. They aren't yet in hand, these licenses. They have to go through the state Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission because they're new licenses. So they have
Okay,
to get the checks and check all the boxes at the state level. Essentially, the state does grant liquor licenses. The ABCC, as they're called.
okay.
That can take a while. We kind of thought that was going to be fast, but the first round of licenses is some of them are only just now getting the licenses in hand. It
How
took a
long?
while.
When did they get them awarded?
I think it was March, so
Okay.
a couple months.
Yeah.
It's a couple months. Maybe they'll move faster now that they've been through it, but they are doing the right thing. They're checking stuff out. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a
Well,
lot of
that's good.
excitement. Yeah,
Really, really good news for those businesses. It definitely makes a difference to, margins to be able to sell liquor and alcohol. So good for
yeah,
them.
yeah. No, there's a lot of exciting concepts there in
Yeah.
places where there have not been liquor licenses.
Well, and if they need something to celebrate, we've got 50 years of independence celebration this week for the Cape Verdean community in
Yes, big deal for them.
Dorchester. Yeah, you wrote this article as well.
Yeah, there's been a buzz on Bowden Street in particular. The Prime Minister of Cape Verde came and he had a meet and greet with young professionals. There are a lot of young professional Cape Verdean people, I would say, like 40 and under, 30 and under. They start businesses. A lot of them were born here, so there's a tie to the country,
Mhm.
but they weren't born there. Some were born there and then came here as young people. Interestingly, Pizza 24, the owner of that. Vanilda is her name. She was one of the people at the meet and greet,
Okay.
and she hopes to bring Pizza 24 to Cape Verde. This was all about how do we, as young people, invest in Cape Verde. It can be difficult. It's a foreign country.
Yeah.
Her idea is, hey, I'm bringing my business there, and I'm going to create a franchise, a chain, and hey, all the power to her. She's got a lot of energy and she's excited, like many of them. But it's more than just the young people. The Independence Day celebration is going to be on July 4th at City Hall Plaza. So they celebrate American Independence Day and Cape Verdean Independence Day as well. July 5th is the official day.
Okay.
So there'll be a flag raising on Saturday with all the pomp and circumstance of that. And it'll be the 50th anniversary. They broke off from Portugal July 5th, 1975. There's a long history of that. If you want to read it, it was in tandem with countries on the African continent. It is an African nation, Cape Verde.
Mm.
So and it's a great story if you want to delve into that someday offline. Read about the freedom fighters from Cape Verde and the African countries there fighting to break away from Portugal.
I always feel like we're so young compared to some of the countries, in Europe in particular, but then places like Cape Verde or I was in Brazil this summer or this winter and
Mhm.
they're old buildings are from, like the 40s or the 30s. So it's a different time scale.
Yeah, it is true. And of course, Brazil is similar to Cape Verde. They have
Yeah.
come and go from there. It's Portuguese influenced,
Yeah. Yeah.
but broken away.
Very cool. Well, congrats to our Cape Verdean neighbors. What
Mhm.
else is going on this week? What are you doing for the 4th?
Bunkering down, hunkering down, trying to get away from the fireworks.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, where I live, my neighborhood in Dorchester, it's like July 4th is a hassle. It really is. I like to
Yeah.
try to go away. It's just so much chaos, and happy for people who enjoy that. Dogs don't enjoy it.
No.
Certainly, a lot of people in the veterans community do not like it.
Yeah.
Uh, but people are celebrating. It is Independence Day. We get to do it once a year, and frankly, the fireworks this year have been much more tame than they were. 2020 was a nightmare.
Oh,
Remember?
it was every night. Yeah. It was every night.
But it has been pretty tame. People shoot them off. Okay, fine with
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
My favorite thing, since I was wearing underoos. I haven't shot off a firecracker.
Well, maybe you can, lightsaber them down since you have the force.
Yes, well, I am, it is
Well, I'll be flying back on the 4th, so
a
knock on wood that everything goes well there. Pick up my dog and bring him home and make sure he's good to go. But we're actually here for this is the nation's largest fencing tournament every year. It's
wow.
not always in Milwaukee, but it is this year. 6,000 fencers. I'm not fencing. I'm just
Right.
tagging
No, it's an
along.
interesting community. I knew a young man from Revere many years ago who, he put his effort into fencing and the
Yeah,
family, that's what they did. And he was great. He was great. It took him great places.
I bet you know several of Yasser's friends and family. Then that's pretty close knit community.
Yes. Yeah. It is very insular, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, enjoy your holiday and thanks for joining remotely. And we'll see you in person soon.
Yeah, well, I'll hold it down here. I'll make sure everything stays, nice and tidy in Dorchester.
Well, Bill is staying nice and I'm sure warm in Orlando in July.
Yeah, yeah. It's warm here. Don't mistake that.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
like
sure.
5 today and tomorrow.
Yikes.
Yeah.
All right, Seth. Thanks again. Have a great rest of your week.
You too. Enjoy.
Thanks.